Hello guys, welcome back. Today going to talk about Makeup Forever foundation powder, the newer version versus the older version. This one hasn't launched officially in China yet. I bought from overseas resources. I used a few times now. I'm not totally sure. It just a little bit confused me to start from the powder color. This time they got the new color numbers. Mine is 1Y04. By looking at the description, they say it's equivalent to the older version of Y215. This is the older version and this is the new version. By looking at the powder color from the palettes, you already can tell the difference. The newer version seems to have more like earthy brown hinted compared to more natural nude. And let me show you guys the swatches as well. Older one, new one. But on the other hand, both versions does get oxidized. Once it's been oxidized, the two versions, the color shade gets similar than the fresh swatch, which is very weird. Come back to the packaging. Okay, the black one, this is in the market. This is like a big brother of foundation powders. It's been in the market forever and we're very familiar with it. And this is the new version. Pretty much exactly the same designs, but just the cap difference is pretty much just change the color itself. Inside is also have the puff, and the puff it changed the color, which is match the lid. And the same, one side is more like sponge puff and the other side is more like puff feel, short hair puff feel. I'm not a big fan of this. It just doesn't give me a smooth finish. Let me show you. Let me quickly put the older version one on one side and I will use the puff that come with. Not a huge fan of it either. It is okay to use, but I would prefer just use my own puff. But for today's purpose, I use the same. First, I use the more sponge side. No concealers whatsoever. The blurring effect is quite good. This foundation is well known for its coverage, but in return, it will look heavier probably than you expected. Look, got a lip balm here. See, personally feel you do need a bit applying technique. When I done the research of this powder, I think a lot of people just so easy to swipe it on, tap, 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 drop down. It's not that easy. You do need to get used to it. You will need to have you will figure out your own best applying technique, let's put it that way. The result is very obvious. This side, don't forget, is the older version. Personally, I do like the older version. It's good coverage in comparisonly, doesn't look too powdery. Although if you compare to, for example, the FLORASIS tinted powder, that one, it will look much heavier, but in result, much better coverage. Smoothen out the skin very well. It's long lasting. Minimize the pores, very good. But when you work with pores area, you got to be careful, especially the nose. Right? For example, you see, it's a disaster over here. I normally use brush to gently poke it rather than the puff that come with. And then if you look at the certain area you want to build up the coverage, then you change to the puff side. The puff side is very good for retouch. And just gently apply this one on. And when you see the second layer, instantly you will feel slightly whiter or pinkier than the first layer, is because this one does oxidize quite quickly. But once it's oxidized is set into the level. It doesn't get continued, so which is better. This side, I think we're quite familiar with in a way of the older version. The new one from powder's perspective is pretty much the same. I don't feel too much difference. It's creamy fine. It's just the what's called the color just really confused me. So this side I would be using the same, using the more spongy side to apply, and this side you see more acne marks. You see this side, the powder, although when you feel it, it's the same, but when you apply it on the face, you do feel the newer version, well, at least I feel, the newer version is, it requires even more applying technique. Let's put it that way. So it could be all my problem, but anyway. It just seems more yellowy compared to this side. But again, even the new version is still gets oxidized. I think from the camera, you can still tell the difference. The older version looks more flawless, and this side looks, the coverage just seems, or the blurring factor just seems reduced in a way. You would say this side looks more natural. I'm kind of agree and disagree, but when you look closer, it's a disaster, guys. It's a disaster. Look at all the cakiness around my blemish marks, and there's all kind of no dead skin on top. It's being smoothed out. It's just the red mark still there, but breaking down surrounded. And look at the forehead. Well, both sides. Look at this side, and look at here. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. So I'm not totally sure about this newer version. How myself normally use it is to use FLORASIS puff or any other's puff rather than their own. They all comes better. They all delivers better result. Then tap a little bit into the powder, tap it out off, and then just press onto the skin and give me better result. Look, ignore this side because those things I won't be able to change unless I do it again, but just look at this area compared to before. See, way much smoother. So don't use the puff that come with. If I just applying this as a setting powder to press things in, it just gives me a better result. Zoom you guys out to normal distance. You still feel this side is slightly more brighter compared to this side, but although they're supposed to be the same color itself. In my own experience, it is very hard to use both versions. I do like the result of the older one, and this I think was in one of my favorites as well in one of the summer months. Because the long lasting. The newer version long lasting is same. It's good. It's very similar. I don't feel this one is longer than the older version. Overall, I still feel the older version, from my personal perspective, it carries better outcome compared to the new one. But I would highly recommend, if you want to use Makeup Forever's powder foundation, one is to reduce the amount of face care that you're going to apply beforehand. Then do use a primer, more clear finish primer. There is no stickiness, there is no oily or non-greasy type of primer. Then before you applying, it's better to use a brush, gently scrub the powder, tap it off, pat on the face first. It kind of gives a dry base before this powder to put on top of it will reduce those, cakiness appearing. And I would suggest don't use the puff that come with. Same, with the new one. You just leave it here for touching up purpose. Other than that, just find any other puff. I always use FLORASIS this puff to doing tap motion like you set your face. I personally feel that gives you a best result. But I have to say, once you set with the setting spray and when you have a little bit of face oil coming out, both of them melt in with your face oil beautifully. It will really make your makeup become, you're born this way. It will look less powdery, less heavy. So the longer you wear this powder, the better result you would love. So I think that's probably the main reason why people love it or hate it. Which side are you in? Love it or hate it? Have you tried the new version? Please do let me know how you feel about it. And don't forget to subscribe my channel down here. I have more reviews coming up. See you next time.